these curses are real, man. Whether you want to believe them or not, you better look, the tin foil, man. Get it ready. Like, we have to play our best just to beat you.
All right, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous of the shirts.
You're gonna struggle to stop Brown. If the game is close into the fourth quarter, South Florida will win.
Welcome, college football fans, to another Inside Insight show. This week, it's USF, and I've got Randy with me, who is actually a returning guest from last season. Now, Randy, I know the comment section can be pretty brutal, but it didn't run you off, so you were willing to jump on again this season. With that being said, could you take a moment and just kind of tell the people a little bit about yourself and where they could find you?
Hey guys, well, I'm back again. Coach Coop was, nice enough to let me come back on. You guys can find me mainly on Twitter. That's where I'm at. I'll tweet anything from, some of my college football picks each week, the ones I feel comfortable with. Try to help you there, and then, just fundamental analysis. And I'm a huge USF fan, so anything I can find on USF. But I also tweet a lot of college football stuff, and I don't mind some trash talking. You guys are probably the best I've ever experienced as far as trash talking goes. So even though I got my chops beat in yet last year, I really enjoyed it. So Miami fans are really, really cool online.
Right, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous of the shirt. I wish it had more orange on it, but that's a pretty sick looking shirt.
Well, I got to represent Florida. You know how it is. So
Yeah.
we're a little different down here. So,
But right out of the gate, I just got to ask you: did you expect USF to be in this position right now? I mean, 2-0. Beat two ranked opponents and rolling into Hard Rock as the number 18 ranked team in the country. Was this expected for you?
No. I think if you're realistically, like I said it all through Twitter in August, I'm a big fan of reading between the lines in the fall camp. And I think I told you that the thing that I like to hear is I want to hear the defense dominating fall camp, because the offense always should be behind the eight ball. But if you hear the offense is rolling in fall camp, you start to wonder, like, that's a problem, because they shouldn't. Even if they're talented, they shouldn't. The defense should be winning early, especially in the second scrimmage. I knew we had 33 seniors coming back. We had a ton of guys. They went through the portal to build the line, which was, as you saw last year, was our Achilles heel on defense. So realistically, to answer that question, I felt we were going to beat Boise. One, because of the heat, and two, because of the fact that I just felt that we finally had the horses to do it, right? I think best case scenario, I was hoping that we would beat Boise, and in a dream world, split the Florida Miami. I think that's best case scenario, right? I think if you're being realistic. I also went in with the idea that there was a very good chance we were probably going to go 1-2 in the first three. But if you beat Boise and then you win your conference, you're going to the playoff. There's nobody outside of the American, if you win it, outside of Boise, that anybody takes seriously for that G6, G5 conference playoffs.
Now, obviously, we got to talk about the quarterback Byron Brown, the guy that makes this offense special that they have there at USF. But I want to mention that really, when you look at the game last year, now he didn't finish out the game against Miami, but overall, Miami kind of limited his impact last year in that game. Why or how could that change this year? Why would it be different?
So I don't know how much Miami fans remember, but Byron Brown tweaked his hammy pretty bad in the Alabama game the week before. So when he went into the Miami game, he was, at my understanding, at like 70% with the hammy. And as you can see, he's a run first quarterback first. Like, for him to throw well, he has to run first. And his hamstring was hampering him. They know that going into the game, pregame, he was not at full strength. And that'll mess with your confidence. It hurts when you're trying to dig, right? Like, where you see how strong he is in his legs. You have to dig with strength, right? Into the grass, into the turf. If your hamstring's all messed up or it's hurt, you don't have the same push off power. So I was very realistic going into that game last year, that I was very concerned that not only could he get really hurt if something happened, but he wasn't going to be able to be as fast, because you saw against Boise and even Florida, he's explosive, he's quick, he's fast, but he's got to be healthy. And unfortunately last year he was, after the Miami game knocked him out, he was done for the year. Like, he never came back. He was gone for nine weeks. And then he came back, and they didn't even, in the spring this year, they put him in a no contact. But he's finally healthy. And this is the first time he's actually been healthy in 2 years. He has not just healthy in the legs, but he's having no issues with his arm strength. He's massive. He's 6'3.5", 232 pounds.
And I saw a picture of dude's hamstrings, and they are as big as my head.
Yeah, they're massive. But if you look at 2 years ago, he was not that big at all. He wasn't even close. So my understanding is the agent, Drew Rosenhaus, signed him. And they got him. This kid has NFL aspirations, so it's a whole different mindset this year. And he's in year 3 of the same offense. That matters, right? And he's really good in the 2-minute drills. So he's just not fazed by anything. You saw it last week in Florida. He went on the road in the swamp. He literally is pretty much our whole offense. Like, everything goes through him. And when the game mattered late in the first half, 2-minute drill, people forget he drove them all the way down, and we just ran out of time. He would have scored. He's just cool, calm, collected. He reminds me a lot of how Cam Ward was last year. Like, when the pressure's on, Cam Ward was just absolutely unbelievable. Miami is the best team in the state of Florida this year. Now, at least on paper. Now,
let's just make that the video. We don't need any more of the Inside show. We'll just do that clip right there. Boom. No, clip it, ship it.
No, look, and that's realistic. I think you have to take a step back regardless of who your team is and just evaluate. And on paper, Miami has the most talent. Again, that doesn't always mean that any given Saturday they can't lose or whatever. And again, with the college football playoff now, you can lose a couple games, and as long as you win your conference, you're in. So it's a little different, right?
Let's shift the conversation here for just a moment. Okay. This is probably the thing I'm most excited to talk about. The game is airing on the CW. First off, the CW struck gold here with this. I mean, who thought this was going to be this big matchup? All right.
What? They thought they were getting,
we'll take this. Sure, we'll take it.
They thought they were getting leftovers from 3 days old in the refrigerator, and next thing you know, they wake up and they got a 5-star chef sitting in the kitchen going, "Hey, what do you want for breakfast?" Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, holy moly!
They got to bring in the dream team to announce this game for them. But with that being said, you've been telling me about this CW curse. All right. Yep. And I've been seeing you post about it and stuff on Twitter. I know a little bit about it, but not a whole lot. Can you fill me in what's going on with this?
Yeah. The whole thing started when Jordan Travis blew out his leg, in the first quarter of the November 18 game and against North Alabama. And then he was done for the year, and it ruined Florida State's season. And not many people thought about anything then because it was on the CW, but it was one of the first games they put on, and everybody's like, that's super weird. And then what they noticed is then after that, there were people went back and started looking, and in 2023, they realized that there was a pattern emerging, that the team that was the higher ranked team when they played, they lost. And it tended to be teams that had point spreads more than +7. So that was something super weird. People noticed it. When the games were close, there was no curse or there was no issue. But when the spreads went from +7 and bigger, the team that was higher ranked and favored lost. And they lost in weird ways, like fumbles, uncharacteristic penalties. Like, you start looking and you go, this is super weird. And then, okay, so you have those upsets, right? And then you go into, and I said, okay, well, let's look at 2024, right? Maybe it's just a weird anomaly, whatever. And then it gets even weirder. In 2024, TCU and SMU were playing, and before the game, TCU broadcast on the CW, the Horned Frogs produced a weird video seemingly mocking the network for broadcasting the matchup because, like I said, it's the CW. And then all of a sudden, SMU came back and beat and upset TCU. Right. So people are like, so then, of course, now the conspiracy theories start jumping on Reddit and Twitter, and they're going, hey, something's going on. Something's weird happening. And then
while you're talking, I'm going to grab something. Keep going.
Yeah. So for those who are listening, next thing you know, people started talking online about a so-called CW curse. Right. And then all of a sudden later the year, Oregon State had a bizarre, crazy punt in week 2 where the broadcast caught an atrocious special teams blunder by Oregon State. They said it resulted in a bizarre punt return touchdown for the opposing team. And then all of a sudden, the curse on social media, they said fans started going to Reddit and then X and platforms and started discussing the possibility of a curse on teams and players featured on the CW. And then I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And then I'm going back through week 1 picks, and I'm like, what? I'm going through picks, and all of a sudden I saw Baylor and SMU, and I saw, I was watching that game. SMU was up big late, in the second half, and then I'm like, you know what? They got it. They're going to win. Whatever. SMU's really good. I told my buddy, I said, preseason, I thought they'd be pretty good. Well, then I later that night, I'm checking the score, and I see that Baylor came back and won. And I'm like, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden, I realized off to the side, I saw it was broadcast on the CW.
The CW curse.
And then I look back at the point spread, and SMU, it was bigger than 0.7. And I'm like, so the higher team lost again, and the point spread was more than +7. I'm like, oh my Lord. And I grew up a huge baseball fan. So I understand the Red Sox curse. Like, these curses are real, man. Whether you want to believe them or not, you better look, the tin foil, man. Get it ready.
It's ready. It's on. I'll be honest. I don't believe in any of this stuff. But I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Give me one of USF's biggest strengths right now.
I'd say leadership.
Okay.
On both sides of the ball. Right. As I said earlier, you got 33 seniors. You're a senior and junior laden team. And a lot of these guys have been in the system for now 2 to 3 years. So, and they've bought in. And when a team's playing as a team and everybody's on the same page, you'll see it. The linebackers on the defense are phenomenal at communicating. They're moving linemen left and right. They're moving corners up. It's like coaches on the field. They didn't have that the last 2 years. Offensively, Brown is the captain, and he's making changes, audibles at the thing. The touchdown they threw against Florida, it was a broken play. But if you look, South Florida got to the line of scrimmage and hiked the ball so fast, Florida's defensive line wasn't even ready. And then he threw it up, and their corners couldn't even get set. And that's what I'm saying. Like, he called it. He got a play. He made a decision. He called the right play and threw a bomb. And next thing you know, you're down, 12-9. And that's leadership. That's experience. That would be their biggest strength. And the years that Miami won all those national titles, they had tremendous leadership and great team play. From Ken Dorsey behind the line of scrimmage to their linebackers on the other side, and Ed Reed and those guys. They were like quarterbacks on the field. You didn't need a coach. They just ran the program, and that's why you guys won, 40 games.
Now, before we get to USF's biggest weakness, maybe Randy needs a moment here to come up with something for that one. I would like to give a quick shout out to the #1 sports app, Sleeper, for sponsoring this video. Check this out.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today, get up to $100 credit using the code COOP. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
So make sure that you click the link down in the description and use code COOP, because Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Again, that's code word COOP. Just click the link down in the description below. Hopefully this has given Randy a little bit of time here to come up with a weakness for USF that he can share with us.
All right. So maybe it's a weakness. I don't know exactly how to describe it. I will tell you that I think our run game is average. And I say that because Brown is elite, but he's not our running back. From what I saw in the Boise game, I wasn't really impressed with our running backs. The Florida game, we had a kid named Alvon Isaac who is emerging, and he's going to be a start running back. However, he's better if you get him out on the flat, if you get him in the slot a little bit, kind of, throw a screen pass on the sidelines, things like kind of get him out in space, right? He's not a guy I would just line up in the power formation and say, hey, offensive line, go ahead and give me an A gap hole, right? So South Florida's run game works when the when your defensive line tries to blitz and, or your defensive line tries to quarterback hurry Brown, and then he can, through a broken play, the A or B gap opens up and then he can run. But I would not say running back is our strength. I will say, I thought we were pretty strong on both sides of the ball, but I'm also realistic. Your offensive line at Miami is phenomenal.
And that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. Your USF's D line, which appears to be a bit undersized when looking at it matched up against Miami's O line. Is that something that is concerning?
It's not undersized as far as what you would expect from a big time D1 line, right? These guys are 265, 275, 280. Like the tackles are 285, 290. Like they're where they need to be. However, what you guys have on the line is ridiculous, right? So you have 6'6", 330.
We got 6'7", 6'9".
So here's where it's going to get interesting. The only way you can beat a line that size is you have to have small speed guys on the outside, right? So big guys are really good at blocking other the bigger D-line guys, right? They're phenomenal at it. But when you get a guy that can absolutely fly and he's a tweener, a lot of times he can kind of get quickly. He can be quicker off the ball than the big guy, and he can get behind him quickly. That's how you beat a big, star-studded offense line. Now, does it always mean it works? No. But that's the mentality. And I think the one thing I will say is Florida's look, Florida didn't play a great game. South Florida had a lot to do with that. However, Florida's just a really not well-coached team.
Heavily penalized in that game.
Correct. And I will tell you, Florida's defensive line is as good as anybody's in the country. And South Florida's offensive line did a fantastic job protecting Brown. And one thing that people forget is Brown has yet to throw an interception. And I want to say, man, and like 240 straight passes.
Okay.
So he's, even with pressure, like Florida was getting pressure on him, but he's real smart with the ball. And our offensive line is very good as far as solid and whatever. So Miami's still going to get pressure, but like what I'm concerned with if I'm a Miami fan is if you guys, let's say you beat our offensive linemen around the block, right on the ends. Well, what's going to happen is once those guys blow past Brown and they try to come up from behind to grab him, he's going to take off because so that's where your linebackers are going to have to really play in the box and square up and make sure they're fundamentally sound, and basically play assignment football. Like they can't try to overdo it and say, oh, I'm going to go for this hit or I'm going to go for this tackle. They're just going to have to just square up to him, let Brown come to them, and then just make the open field tackle so they can go to the next play and try to get it. I do know that talking to some people, I would expect Miami to blitz and play zero coverage, right? So those are the two things. It's going to be really interesting because Florida did a whole bunch of complicated stuff. Miami's very confident. They exactly what they're going to run defensively, but they sit there and go, hey, we trust our athletes, and we dare you to beat us, and we're going to show you exactly what we're going to do on defense, and we don't care. We're coming, and either if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to beat us straight up, and there's no gimmicks with Miami's defense. So at least South Florida knows what's coming, but the question is, can they stop it?
Obviously, there's a ton of ways to answer this for both teams, but could you give me a key or two to walking away with a victory for USF in this one? Like what would be kind of at the top of the list when it comes to importance for this game to get a win?
So for us to have a shot, we gotta keep it close into the fourth quarter. If the game is close into the fourth quarter, South Florida will win. I think that because of the fact that the leadership and the confidence will build. If you guys blow us out early or get ahead multiple touchdowns, then it's over. And so South Florida has to keep it close into the fourth quarter. We have to stay healthy. And our defense, like I said at the beginning, our defense has to play phenomenal. If we play a B- game or a B+ game, I don't know if we have a shot. So South Florida has to play really, really good. And one thing that Miami is going to try to do, and this, is you guys are going to pound the rock.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. I'm going to find out Saturday, but I don't know if South Florida is good at stopping that yet. And what I mean by that is against Boise State, they in the first half they struggled to stop the run, and then the second half the defense tightened up, and Boise State couldn't move the rock at all, and it was great. And then same thing in the Florida game. In the first half, in the first quarter especially, Florida was running the ball. Now, Ball's, in my opinion, the best running back in the SEC at Florida. Like I've looked at them all. He's the best, most talented guy. Quarters 2 through 4, though, South Florida made adjustments on defense, and he couldn't really do anything. So the question I have is, and I still don't know, is South Florida good enough to stop the run, and they just need coaching adjustments, or was that a fallacy and it was just fool's gold and we just got lucky for 2 games? I don't know. I'm 100% going to find out this Saturday, because you guys, if we can stop your run or mitigate it, we're going to be in really good shape. I think we gave up somewhere between 120 and 140, 150 yards rushing the last 2 weeks. But if we do that, we've got a very good chance to win, because we're going to rush the ball too. Now, if you guys rush, the key for Miami is if you guys rush for over 200 yards, we lose.
And for Miami fans, we're pretty pumped because, we had running back Jordan Lyle go down with a bit of an injury against Notre Dame. He was supposed to be a full participant this week in practice, and mostly was even last week. But I think, given the FCS opponent, let's not rush this guy in. We have a good mix of backs in that room, so not really a concern. So we're pumped to have, Fletcher, Lyle. We have Brown. We have a lot of fresh legs we can rotate in there deep, into the third and fourth quarter.
Well, let's be real for a second. I could play running back in that behind that line and probably get $120, right? Like, I mean, that's all right. Listen, that's one nice thing that Miami has is your line is so good that you can plug anybody in there and they can rush for 100+ yards a game, right? So, let's call it what it really is. The heart of your team going into fall camp, everybody knew it. Anybody that followed it, your offensive line is, man, it might be the best in the country. It's really hard to know until you see those matchups. But it's definitely a top 5 offensive line. And I think, that's not surprised anybody. So I didn't even look at, I'll be honest, I didn't even look at your running backs because it's irrelevant. Your line's so good that you guys could put a true freshman back there and he's going to get his numbers, right? So it's really just going to come down to, can South Florida's linebackers, can the defensive line make sure that you keep your offensive line at bay, and can the linebackers make open field tackles for South Florida to keep, your running backs from getting 8 to 12 yards a clip, right? So it's going to be really, really interesting. But, like I said, I think on paper, South Florida is not even on the same playing field as Miami, but, it's college football and you got
the games have to be played.
You guys struggled. Miami's just historically has always struggled with running quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And when CJ Carr started running, you guys struggled. I think you're going to struggle to stop Brown. I do. I think this is going to be more of a scoring game than the Florida game. I think both defenses are going to make plays, and it's really just going to come down to who protects the football and who can, move the ball better. And then, Carson Beck, I think he's thrown no interceptions on the year, right?
Correct.
So
0 interceptions so far.
Here's something to think about. You got Brown, who hasn't thrown an interception in something like 240 passes, and you got Carson Beck, who hasn't thrown an interception this season also. You got 2 really, really smart quarterbacks. The $1 million question is, who's going to throw the first pick? Realistically, South Florida's going in with the game. They're playing house money, and if you ask me, on paper, who should win, it should be Miami. Ooh.
I have 34-20 Canes, which I think is not disrespectful in any way. I put a post up on Twitter and I said, hey, man, is it crazy for me to say that, Miami might beat the piss out of USF? And people were like, Coop, you're out of your mind. And I'm like, I don't mean Miami's going to win by, it's not going to, in my opinion, it's not going to be a repeat of last year. It's not going to be a 50-15.
Well, your offense is more conservative this year. It's just, that's just how you are, right? If you watch Beck, he will throw a long ball, but most of the time it's, 5 to 8 yard passes, keep it close, and let your athletes, get the yards after the catch, right? So you've got better wide receivers this year. You've got better talent, on the offense. So he doesn't have to do as much. He can be like, hey, let me throw that 5 yard pass, and then, hey, you get me 5 or 6 more yards, right? So that's really interesting. I think, you said 34-20. I think, yeah. And mine is obviously different because I'm going to take South Florida because I want to, in case I'm right, you know what I mean?
All right.
But I will say this. You and I both agree that a 17.5-point spread, I think, is too much.
I agree.
So,
Yep.
I think if you take South Florida to beat the spread, you're going to make some money. I have South Florida winning 31-28 with a last-second field goal from Automatica Grammatica.
Woo!
And
yeah.
and
I mean, I heard the name alone makes him good from 40 plus, like around 40, 45.
so
Just
he
the
finally
name.
missed a 58er the other day, but I've heard stories that he's kicked up to a 70-yarder in practice.
He hit a 58-yarder on us last year,
and he's hit a bunch of 50-something yarders this year. And I think, but he comes from an NFL pedigree, right?
Yeah.
His uncle and his dad were stars. You can see he's going to be a star in the NFL in another year. He'll go to probably, maybe he'll go to the Miami Dolphins, maybe go to the Tennessee Titans. I don't know. But like I said, I got 31-28 last second, because I will tell you this, even if we play our best, there's no way we don't win by more than a couple points. Like, we have to play our best just to beat you.
Randy, I appreciate you so much for coming into enemy territory 2 years in a row. I've had people decline. I have. They said those Miami fans ate me up. Yes, they said absolutely not. I'll still watch your channel, but I will not come on video and say anything about Miami Hurricanes football games or whoever they're playing. So respect for jumping over here.
Listen, I appreciate you having me. It's been an awesome pleasure. And like I said, for those that want to follow me, you can always trash talk, whatever. I'll give you my best advice. But I will say 2 games to watch for this weekend that's not our game. I have Ole Miss over Arkansas, and believe it or not, I got Vanderbilt over South Carolina on the road.
Ooh.
Now, and I'll tell you why real quick, Coop. This is really cool. So in opening weekend, if you remember, South Carolina beat Virginia Tech in a neutral field, but it was really close. And if you look at the stats, it wasn't that impressive by South Carolina. I know it was week 1, but then last week, what did Virginia Tech do? They went into Blacksburg and beat the dog shit, excuse my language, out of Virginia Tech. They outgained them over 300 yards. The quarterback for Vanderbilt looked great. Don't be surprised if Vanderbilt goes into South Carolina and pulls the upset. It will be close. But I like preseason polls. I think the AP voters don't know how good Vanderbilt is. I'm not saying they're going to run the table or anything, but against South Carolina, I think they got a legitimate chance to upset them. So that would be the game. If you had some extra money and you don't mind losing it, you might get a nice little return on the Vanderbilt game. Again, I got Ole Miss because they're at home against Arkansas, and I think it'll be close in the first half, but they'll win in the second half. But my upset pick this weekend, outside of South Florida upsetting Miami, the other one I got is Vanderbilt over South Carolina. I think South Carolina is ranked 11th right now.
I dig it. And, as long as it doesn't involve Miami, I'm here for the chaos. I have no love for Vanderbilt or the Gamecocks or anything. So make it chaotic. Mix things up. I'm here for it. Yeah. So, Randy, I appreciate you again. You know what I got to do before we head out of here? There it is. Y'all show Randy some love down in the comments. And we'll find out who's the better team on Saturday afternoon.
Absolutely, dude. Hey, look out for that curse. It's coming.